ladies and gentlemen. It's a very cold morning, Friday morning here in Nairobi. Nevertheless, we extend a very, very warm welcome to all participants from Kenya and from outside. We are very happy to see that we have participants from Sudan, Uganda, Nigeria, Tanzania, South Africa, and Rwanda. And so we are welcome for today's webinar session. My name is John Sergon, a faculty member here at Strathmore Business School. And we are very, very glad and indeed most grateful that you are able to join us today. It is our hope and believe that the next 1 hour and a half will be a rewarding experience to you. I wish to extend a special welcome to our panelists, beginning with Dr. Raf Oyini-Mbauna. Excuse me if I do not pronounce your name properly, Daktari, from Smart Africa Alliance, all the way from Kigali, together with his colleagues and friends. Karibu sana Daktari Kenya. Next is Engineer Daniel Obam from the National Communications Secretariat, Mr. ICT, together with his colleagues and friends. Karibuni sana, Engineer. And of course, we have our own Mr. Muriuki Muredi, who is also a faculty member here. Karibu sana and your friends. I have a personal welcome to my network of friends, notably those who are in SBS PhD program, Alliance High School alumni, and among others who have joined us today. Karibuni sana. So I also wish to recognize the team from SBS who have been working on this program. Baya, Karo Munene, and Lynette Njoki. Karibuni sana. So without much ado, I would like to wish to welcome Mr. Martin Mbaya, the Director of the Executive Education Program, to give his opening remarks and open the webinar session. Karibu sana, Martin.
Thank you very much, John, and greetings to all our distinguished panelists and participants joining from around the world. Welcome to this session, what will be a very engaging conversation and discussion on Kenya's digital economy blueprint, trying to unpack and understand the policy implications and the impact on Africa's digital economy, with a focus on the continent and a focus on Kenya in particular. This topic is very pertinent, not only in the context where African countries find themselves today, but more generally in these times of COVID, the post-pandemic period where different countries are trying to reevaluate how they engage in the interactions between the leaders and the citizens. Countries finding themselves having to figure out how to use technology to address some of the most pressing challenges that face us as humanity today. In today's conversation, we will get to hear from different perspectives spanning the public sector, the private sector, and academia, both in the context of Kenya, which has been championing the concept of the digital economy on behalf of the African continent as envisioned by the African Union, and programmatically with a focus on Kenya as a country, the East African region, and Africa as a continent, through this idea of Smart Africa. And we'll get to learn a little bit about the important role that projects and programs that span multiple countries play. In my opening remarks, and for those who are new to Strathmore, I would like to point out this idea that systems matter. As a university, Strathmore has been at the forefront of championing the generation of knowledge, the curation of knowledge, the consumption of knowledge, and the dissemination of knowledge. We have our presence in Nairobi, Kenya, but we also have units, not entire campuses, but units that engage within the East African region, including in Rwanda, where Ralph is joining us from. As an academic institution, our mandate goes beyond knowledge generation and has this important role of linking technology and innovation to service delivery outputs focused on the citizens. As we look at the digital economy today, and as we look at a country like Kenya, which has entered into agreements with various geopolitical powers, like the US, there's an ongoing conversation around a free trade area, which has digital aspects to it. There are conversations with the UK, with the EU around economic partnership agreements. There are already pre-existing agreements or partnerships of various kinds with countries in the East like China and Japan and various other countries globally. It's important to take into account that this issue of digitization has an important role to play. And the panelists that we have with us today will really help to unpack for us why it is that Kenya assumed this leadership role on behalf of the continent of trying to understand what technology can do. The panelists will also help to unpack for us how an institution like Strathmore as a university and other universities in their respective countries in the context of Africa, and universities spanning both the public and the private divide, public universities, private universities, what role they can play, and also the key role that private sector actors, companies, and various actors spanning civil society also have to play around this conversation on the digital economy. And in ushering in the conversations that will happen and building on my opening point around systems, I want us to think about systems from 3 dimensions. Innovation systems, national innovation systems. Who are the actors? What are the linkages? What are some of the institutions that matter? I want us to think of political systems. And in this, if we think of the policy process model, how do we move from a problem to policy options to implementation through programs and projects, and ultimately evaluation using various indicators, input, process, output, outcome, and impact? How do we think of the economic system, supply and demand? In this phrase, the digital economy, how do we link those who produce goods and services, products and services, and those who consume them? And finally, the financial system. How do we think about issues of payment, capturing value, measuring value, storing value, and ensuring that that value accrues to various actors in the context of systems? Allow me to close by pointing out that at Strathmore University, we are committed to research, teaching, and consulting in this area of digitization with an emphasis on the digital economy. And I hope our panelists will really help to unpack for us today how this idea of the digital economy can position Africa to be a global player, particularly as we think of the 4th industrial revolution. Therefore, Engineer Obam, it's our absolute delight to have you here on behalf of the government of Kenya. Bwana Ralph Mbuma, it's an absolute delight to have you here, Dr. Mbuma, on behalf of the Smart Africa Initiative out of Kigali, Rwanda. And then for my colleagues, Bwana Muriuki and Bwana Sergon, on behalf of academia and industry, it's a delight to have you here, and I look forward to rich conversations. Thank you, Lynette, for organizing us, and Caroline, and we look forward to a highly engaging session. Back to you, Lynette, back to you, John, for the rest of the program. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Martin. So we go straight on to Mr. Muriuki, who will give us a very short brief overview of this program, and then before we go to the panelists. Muriuki.
John, thank you very much. And I take this opportunity to happily welcome the members to this seminar, where we shall be discussing the deep insights on the digital economy. Martin has given us a perspective from the policy perspective, which is really the cornerstone of our program in the Institute of Public Policy and Governance. And from there, we are driving policies around cyberspace and strategic studies. For today's conversation, we really look back to the evolution of ICTs over a period of the last 20 to 30 years, which has been deeply transformative taking us, the ICT is taking us from very simple communication in the era of narrowband, just making calls, to the new era of broadband driven with applications that have impacted all aspects of our lifestyles in the emerging cyberspace domain. These applications have included e-government, about our education, e-learning, working from home, for example, telecommuting, social life, among others. But importantly, and for today, an implication of great importance is the economic activity, which is impacting us at a personal level, at a national level, regional and global through this digital transformation. Indeed, we notice that the digital transformation presents unprecedented opportunity to catapult our society, but also a great risk if left behind. This is the time for Africa and our countries. This webinar today is part of a series driven by our program, Cyberspace Policy and Strategic Studies, and in it we want to unveil, unpack, and indeed also engage you as key stakeholders on the opportunities presented by the emerging cyberspace domain. Within this domain, we want to explore the status and progress of digital economy in the context of Africa. And for today, we'll be using Kenya as a case study within the African space. We are deeply honored to present key drivers of digital economy in Africa. And today we present none other than the architects of the Africa's digital economy blueprint, none other than Engineer Daniel Obam, the outgoing CEO of the National Communication Secretariat in the Ministry of ICT. On one hand, he brought a team and the Smart Africa Alliance to develop the blueprint, which will be the basis of our conversation today. On the other hand, we also are very, very deeply honored to have the one who is now driving that realization across Africa, working with countries across the region, Dr. Love Oyini Bouna, who is the head of digital transformation, innovation, and services at Smart Africa Secretariat. Each of them will have an opportunity to really give us a context from where they are coming from and how they see into the future. So all this is in the context of cyberspace policy and strategic studies that are driving this process. So I would like to hand over to you, John, to bring the guests into the space to start the conversation.
Thank you very much, Muriuki. So it's my honor to welcome the two panelists today, as we have said, Engineer Obam and also Dr. Raf. I will, not in any special order, but I will start with Engineer Obam. You will give us a little bit about introduction about yourself, Engineer. The same with Dr. Raf, but you will go ahead and give us a brief about a little bit about yourself, and then you go ahead and have the 15 or so minutes of presentation. You have about 15 minutes, 20 minutes max, and also same to Dr. Raf. So welcome, Dan. I have worked with you for many years, so welcome to see you again. And we have met in these forums before. Karibu sana, Dr. Engineer.
Thank you, John. And let me take this opportunity to thank you and the team from the Strathmore Business School. And of course, also greatly honored to sit on the same panel with Raf. Maybe just to contextualize matters, I'm here because as one of the people who are involved in the development of the strategy, I'm not representing the government of Kenya. I think Dr. Mbaya may have overstretched that a bit because, you know, the process of inviting people to represent governments is different from the process that through which you invited me. And Muriuki Muriithi, it's not true that I'm the architect of the blueprint. It was, I just simply chaired a team of experts who put together the document. So I should clarify. So Daniel Obam is my name. I work at the National Communication Secretariat with a team of we call experts, and our role is to help the government of Kenya develop policies, strategies, and sometimes even legislative frameworks. I also do some other work at the International Telecommunication Union. I am the chairman of what we call the Radio Communication Advisory Groups, one of the 3 advisory groups that advises the ITU on how to, carry on the operations. So I do that. My main forte is actually on spectrum issues, but of course, when colleagues like John and Muriuki call you and you have a chance to sit with Raf, you don't turn down the chance, you come and participate. So that's that. So I'll just go straight ahead and make the presentation. And as I do that, I want to recognize my colleagues who are here with me that I work with. One is Alan Oluoch, who works in the PS ICT and Innovation at the Ministry of Information Communication, Ministry of ICT, Innovation and Youth Affairs. And I have Dr. Jane Munga, who is also my colleague at the National Communication Secretariat. And of course, she actually played a much more prominent role in developing this document than myself. So they were here in case you ask me a question, I'm unable to answer it, they'll be able to assist me in doing that. So the scope of my discussion generally is I'll do some introduction to why we are talking about the digital economy, and then I'll talk a bit about how the blueprint was developed. I'll then delve into the pillars and how they are related to other pillars within the Smart Africa Alliance members. Then we'll discuss about how all these ambitious pillars, how do I see them being funded? And then I look at what my view is on some of the challenges that could be facing the member countries in terms of implementing the intentions of the blueprint. And then briefly talk about the institutional framework and the timelines for the implementation, both at the national and the regional level. Then I have a concluding slide. So as part of the introduction, I want to just pay attention to how the world, corporates in the world have evolved, and pay attention to the green. You see, in 2001, there was only one company in the tech sector that was among the top 10. If you go to 2016, then you see the greens keep on moving until by 2016, we had the top 5 countries companies were all tech companies. Moving on to last year, this is actually taken off the internet, and it's a video, and you can probably go in and look at it, how the top 10 countries have evolved by market capitalization. By last year, this was by end of last year, the most capitalized company was Saudi Aramco. Other than that, you can see how it plays out. Apple, Microsoft, Alphabet, Amazon, Facebook, Alibaba, Berkshire Hathaway is somewhere there, but then you have Tencent and Visa. So what does this tell us? It tells us that the digital space is actually taking over the dominance that previously we had with banks, financial institutions, oil companies, and therefore this is probably what is driving the economic development in the world. And being the case, we can actually use digital technologies to change the trajectory of development of our continent. And so just some references here. The Brookings Institute last year said that the digital economy globally was worth about $11.5 trillion, equivalent to 15.5%. And the World Bank predicted that the digital economy was expected to reach 25% of the world GDP in the next 10 years. And the European Commission in 2015 said that the digital economy was the most important driver of innovation, competitiveness, and growth. And it held a huge potential for entrepreneurs. I think Dr. Mbaya talked about innovation and sharing knowledge. So, and then our own Africa Development Bank reckoned that in our continent, between 10 to 12 million youth are released from institutions of learning, and only about 30% of them are able to get jobs which are created. So 70% of our youth remain unemployed. So for them to get employed, we must equip them with the right skills so that they can get new job opportunities. And you've seen the biggest companies are actually digital companies. So the skills that we need to impart for our youth to get jobs lie in the digital economy, developing the digital economy. So given the foregoing, the digital economy growing faster than the overall economies, especially in developing countries, and I'll talk to that a little bit more, means that this provides us an opportunity to leapfrog and provide not only jobs for the youth, but also increase our GDP. So I've shared some statistics. If you look at the bottom left, they entered in a report in 2015, and actually is validated by the small graph you can see on the left, that if you look at where the e-commerce is growing the fastest, in 2019 and predicted in 2024, although China and the US and Europe are really dominant, but the largest growth of e-commerce is actually in the South. You see, China is at 80%, growing at 80%, predicted. Europe is 55%, US is 53%. The rest of the world, which is the developing world, is growing at 86% and still growing. So, and the growth, we are told, is between 15 and 25%. In 2019, UNCTAD released a report, and I've put a link there, that the least developed countries, the export of ICT and digital delivery services for least developing countries accounted for about 16% of total services exported. And it's more than tripled from 2005 to 2018. So that report gives a very good reference to how the digital economy or e-commerce actually is helping LDCs and developing countries to leapfrog and improve their economies. So what is a digital economy? What does it mean? It depends on who you ask. If you ask the OECD, they tell you that it enables and executes trade through electronic commerce on the internet. The Australians have their definition. The World Economic Forum have their definition. The European Commission have that. They had an expert group on taxation, which had their definition. Even the House of Commons have their own definition. But the common theme is mobile network, internet, digital technologies, and electronic commerce. So for us, although this is a bit preemptive, but we also, when we're developing the blueprint, we also defined it, and I said there is an entirety of sectors that operate using digitally enabled communication and networks, delivering the internet, mobile, and other technologies. So again, it's sort of a common theme in the definition. So from the previous slide, therefore, I was saying that the digital economy provides us with the potential to grow our economies by reducing poverty, creating new job opportunities. Remember the 10 or so million youth who join the job market every year. And as a result, we improve the livelihood of our people. So the blueprint was launched last year by His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta, His Excellency Paul Kagame, and the then President of the Republic of Mali. And now you will ask, why was it launched in Kigali, and maybe why is RAF here? So I want to just give you some background to the organization called the Smart Africa Alliance. The Smart Africa Alliance is an alliance of like-thinking countries that put ICT at the center of their national socioeconomic development agenda. They also see improving access to ICT and especially broadband connectivity. You may recall that we are told by different organizations, World Economic Forum, World Bank, that an increase in penetration of broadband has a direct effect on improved GDP. So the Smart Africa Alliance countries are committed to increasing access to broadband. And then, of course, as we do this, all this economic development, we need to have accountability, efficiency, and openness through using technology. And then the Smart Africa Alliance puts the private sector first. Some of the members of the alliance are actually private sector companies, but being from government, I'll talk about government members. And then the issue of this SDGs, the Smart Africa Alliance Manifesto looks at leveraging ICT as an enabler to promote the achievement of the globally agreed sustainable development goals. And the manifesto was endorsed by the African Union in 2014. So the greater vision of the alliance, and Raf, if I say anything here that's not correct, please, when you come in, you can correct me. Before this conversation started, each country was just operating as a market on its own. Then from that situation, we moved to where we formed regional economic communities or blocks. So in East Africa, you have the East African Community, you have COMESA, you have SADC, you have the Central Africa, you have ECOWAS, you have the Northern African countries. So those have sort of tried to integrate based on, but not based on the digital technologies, but just based on common interests. For example, in Kenya, we find now that some of the leading trading partner of Kenya is actually a member of the East African Community. And other members are actually, so we're moving from that model. And so the Smart Africa Alliance vision is to transform Africa into a single digital market, from individual markets to regional digital markets to a single Africa digital market. And this resonates with the objective of the African Continental Free Trade Area, which is to create a single continental market for goods and services with the free movement of businesses, persons, investments, and therefore we paving the way for some common, common institutions. So as we've seen, the only way you can do this is through using digital technologies. So this is dated, and I think Raf, again, you can correct me. I believe that now the membership is 31 because Mauritania has recently joined the alliance. But these are the members of the alliance, representing a market of close to about 800 million or maybe a billion people. That's a big market. So the way this is structured, that each country has been given a flagship project to pursue. So you'll get these slides and you'll see how each country has their own opportunity. But so you may be asking, so why did Kenya get involved in the digital economy? In the Smart Africa Alliance, Kenya has been given the digital economy to champion. And what happens that we have this, what we call Smarter and Transform Africa Summit. And at each summit, each country is supposed to go and present their vision of their flagship project. So Kenya, being responsible for the digital economy, was tasked to come up with a blueprint. So we developed the blueprint, probably you've seen it, has got 5 pillars: digital government, digital business, infrastructure, innovation-driven entrepreneurship, digital skills. Dr. Mbaya talked about the role of institutions like Strathmore and others. I think institutions like Strathmore can play a big role in developing skills. Remember, I said skills are required for our youth to get jobs. So private sector, education, institutions like Strathmore, if you look at these pillars, you probably can get something that you can do. For example, in infrastructure, we don't envision government to do infrastructure. Expect, like, for example, if you're talking about digital infrastructure, telcos will develop the infrastructure. If you're talking about innovation, we will find investors investing in innovative solutions. Government will, of course, be responsible for developing digital systems that can bring efficiency and in delivery of public services. Then around the five pillars, what we are calling cross-cutting issues, and these are policy and regulatory frameworks, taking into account emerging trends like technology, data, security, sustainability, and of course, all these have to be integrated so that you have platforms that integrate across the continent, so that if I buy something, I'm in Kenya and I buy something, say in Rwanda, I can actually transact whether I use my mobile phone, regardless of the operator of that mobile phone. I can use my computer, I can use my tablet. So integrated systems are important. So these again are details of the different pillars. Digital government, I've talked about that, improve access and quality, transparency in the delivery of government services. Digital business brings in the issue of digital trade, digital financial services, and content. Because with the pandemic, we've seen that most of content is being consumed online. So digital content is part of digital business. And the infrastructure, we are not just talking about digital infrastructure. You can have broadband, but if you order goods, for example, you need to have the means to deliver those goods. So issues like, say, national addressing systems, energy to power the platforms, the roads to deliver the goods to the physical goods to the location are important. So we don't just look at digital infrastructure as broadband, but we look at infrastructure holistically. Because if you don't have a reliable electric supply, the platforms will not be powered, and therefore you cannot be able to trade digitally. And of course, under innovation, we need innovative solutions that provide us solutions to 21st century challenges. So then we have skills and values, which I've already talked about. In customizing the digital economy in Kenya, we've added a pillar called digital inclusion, because we need to include. Remember, we talked about youth needing to have jobs, so we need youth and vulnerable groups. But that's now a pillar that Kenya has added. Then I've already talked about cross-cutting issues. So funding, because the strategy, the blueprint is to be adopted by countries as part of their national strategy. The expectation is that this should be funded through the normal budgetary allocation within national budgets. So included, of course, will be funds from partners and the private sector, bilateral, multilateral organization. Just some examples. The World Bank has what they call the Digital Economy for Africa initiative, which is also called the Digital Economy Moonshot. And this, I'll give an example of what Kenya is doing. I was doing some research. I found the European Investment Bank also has some specific initiatives targeting the development. The Africa Development Bank, the EU and the AU have developed a task force which provides a platform for partnership for cross-border integration. But overall, the funding should be through the normal budgetary interventions. And then specifically about Chair, please bear with me, maybe I need another 2 or 3 minutes. Kenya has taken the digital economy, the Digital Economy for Africa initiative of the World Bank, and has started a discussion to develop what we are calling a national moonshot project, which is Kenya Digital Economy Acceleration Project. So we will use this as part of the funding for the initiatives. Tied with this also, there's a discussion which is taking place through what we're trying to call a single digital market for the East Africa community or some of the countries around Kenya. So this is how we now are looking at funding this, and I'm sure other countries probably have similar initiatives, either with the World Bank or with other multilateral organizations. So challenges, I think that the idea of developing the blueprint was for each country to look at the pillars that were developed and then see if they can domesticate or develop their own strategies. This, in my view, hasn't happened, but maybe Ralph can tell us if I'm wrong. And perhaps this could be due to lack of resources, expertise, and time, because it does take some time. Even for Kenya, we started this immediately after the launch in 2019. And up to now, we still haven't really had the strategy approved. It's very, very much advanced, but it hasn't been approved. One thing also that you'll find is there's normally fragmented and uncoordinated digital governance and deployment of policies. You have cross-jurisdictional problems between institutions in countries, so that slows down the process. Another one could be the siloed investments in what needs to be done. You have different agencies making their own decisions, so you have difficulties and incoherences in terms of coordinating infrastructure rollout, especially in the low income and marginalized areas. And of course, limited funding. With the COVID-19, there's been a distraction where funds are now being directed to the more urgent COVID-19 initiatives. And then we need to have more international collaboration. And then in terms of how this was to be implemented, I'm quoting the comments from our president, where he says that the hope of Kenya was that each member state would take the blueprint and find value and adopt it within their own ecosystem to realize the potential of digital transformation. What this means is that countries should take this and use their own institutions to implement. And of course, then we have institutions like Smart Africa that does coordinate how far countries have gone. So there was no institutional setup within the blueprint, but this being integrated within national plans. So I think the conclusion would be that the launch of the blueprint served as our contribution as a country in championing the growth of an Africa-wide digital and single digital market. And we are happy that countries are using the blueprint as a framework for identifying programs and initiatives. And I think Raf can talk more to this. I think in 2020, after some survey, it was found that 10 countries had been benchmarked, and there's good progress in implementing this. There's still a lot of work to be done to ensure that the pillars that are identified are deployed, but yeah, I think progress is good as far as we can see, and we are happy that we're able to share our knowledge and experience with other African countries. Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much, Engineer Obam. I noticed you've gone a little bit over your time, but thank you very much for that very fantastic presentation and also the insights into what is really happening. I want to take this opportunity to appreciate those people who have come in since the time we came in. I had noted in a special way from other countries who were not here before, Sudan, Uganda, Nigeria, Tanzania, South Africa, and Rwanda, who have joined us. Karibuni sana, sana, sana. So I noticed there are a few questions. This is Miriam. Please take those questions and so that you can moderate towards the end. I think we will go over, because these two programs are actually together, we will go over quickly, Dan, rather than us answering the questions. We will go over to Dr. Raf Oyini, then we will answer the questions as he finishes. So I'm privileged once again to invite Raf Oyini Bauni to give his introduction about himself and then about our subject. Karibu sana. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. On behalf of Smart Africa, I want to start by saying thank you to Strathmore University for having us part of this panel. It's really an honor to be on this panel. And although Engineer Obam would not say it, he's a great ambassador of Smart Africa and of Kenya and its successes, and also of digital economy in Africa overall. So thank you again. And I did not prepare a presentation, but what I'm going to do is that in a few words, I'm going to maybe cover a little bit about Smart Africa, maybe to add what was presented earlier by Engineer Obam. Then I will say why this subject is so critical for Africa. I'm talking about digital economy. And I will cover about some of the challenges, maybe the top 3-4 challenges that we observe on the continent. And I will then finish my intervention with what we do at Smart Africa and maybe update the slides that Engineer Oban, the last slides, about what this blueprint that we developed with Kenya, the result, the consequences, and the impact of the blueprint within the alliance. So maybe let me start with a short presentation of Smart Africa. Smart Africa, well, started in 2013 with 7 heads of state that came together and that decided to work together in order to drive the socio-economic development of Africa using ICT. They understood that digital is not about borders, it's not about working in silos, but coming together and so that you can be strong and compete with the rest of the world. Today, we are in 2021, and Smart Africa is now 32 member states, not 30 or 31, but 32. We're growing so fast. This number keeps on changing. Now the newcomers are Mauritania and Sudan. So this represents a market of 800 million people, which is a huge market. But we understand that it's a huge market, but if we have different regulations, different policies, and each country has its own policy and regulation, we don't have enough harmonization, it doesn't work, right? And it's very difficult then to attract investments in order to develop our economies. So this is a very short presentation of Smart Africa. Smart Africa, the board of Smart Africa is all the heads of states of member states. This is really the leadership of Smart Africa, and this is where the decisions are taken. Then we have the steering committee, which is composed of the ICT ministers, which is why we're so close with the ICT ministries in our member states. We work very closely with the ministers as well, which is why I know Engineer Oban well, because he's part of the team that represents the government of Kenya when it comes to Smart Africa, within the Smart Africa Alliance. Then maybe let me cover quickly why this topic is critical and how we came up with Kenya having this flagship project. So at Smart Africa, when you see the 32 member states, each member state has a piece of puzzle of the digital agenda of Africa. For example, you have South Africa that has the flagship project of artificial intelligence and emerging technologies, right? It makes sense. South Africa is really well advanced in that sector. Then you have, for example, Tunisia, that has the flagship project of startups, ICT startups and innovation ecosystems. For those that are in that sector, you know that Tunisia is well advanced in the environment for startups to develop. They're the first African country to really push towards the startup policies and the startup act. So now we develop a blueprint with them to share these experiences across our member states. Another example is Rwanda. Rwanda flagship project is smart cities. For those that came in Kigali, you can tell why Rwanda's flagship project is smart cities. They're really pushing for digital solutions in the city of Kigali. You can see it everywhere when you walk around Kigali. It's a very clean city, and this is because of the technology behind and all those solutions behind, like smart waste management. And then we looked at Kenya, and we proposed that Kenya also a flagship project, and Kenya, of course, selected, because countries are sovereign, they select the flagship project. And it's only normal that Kenya is championing digital economy. I mean, we know well how the economy of Kenya is growing exponentially and all the efforts that Kenya is doing in that area. So we're very, very pleased and we're very honored to have Kenya champion the digital economy flagship. And I will discuss maybe later on the impact that Blueprint had within the Smart Africa Alliance with the different member states of Smart Africa. So why is it critical? Let me give you a statistic that I found that we found from the United Nations. Africa only contributes to 1.3% of the world digital economy. So the African digital economy only represents, when you sum up all those different economies, only represent approximately 1.3% of the world digital economy. That means that Africa is lagging behind when it comes to digital economy. But surprisingly, Africa dominates when it comes to mobile services, which is part of the digital economy, right, in some way, by 60%, which is amazing. So there is this gap, and it's critical to understand what's happening there. That's number one. Number two, it's critical because when you look at developed countries, I'm talking about socially and economically developed countries, you're going to find a direct correlation between the level of organization of a country and the level of development, right? So countries that are very well developed tend to be very well organized. This is, you can look at it yourself, it's really a fact. And to be organized, now you have digital technology tools that allow people to become more organized, right? So now you have also a correlation between the organization of a country and its level of digital transformation. And here you can do the direct link between digital transformation and social economic development via the level of organization of a country. So it's very important that countries, African countries, really enter this game of the fourth industrial revolution and become digitally savvy, digitally transformed, and better organized. That's number two. Number three, our leaders, it comes from our leaders. Our leaders understood the importance of transforming our traditional economies into knowledge-based economies, into digital economies. What do I mean by this? African countries really rely on natural resources. I'm talking about resources that are in the ground, right? I'm talking about oil, I'm talking about timber, etc. So for a long time, African economies relied on selling, for example, timber outside, or cacao, or gold, without adding value, without transforming it. Well, it's not sustainable. This way of doing things is not sustainable because those resources are very finite. So what our leaders understood at our board meetings, they understood that, hey, we need to change this. We need to transform our economies into digital economies and make sure that we enter into a knowledge-based economies that is, and knowledge is infinite. Now, in order to do this, the natural resources shift. There is a change in paradigm. The natural resources shift from oil, timber, cacao, gold, diamonds, those things into people. Now the citizens become the natural resources. Now the entrepreneurs become the natural resources because they're the ones that will add value to all those traditional resources. They're the ones that will make value out of nothing with digital services. And we have to make sure that we include them. And this is why I'm so happy that the digital economy blueprint evolved, as said Engineer Obam, and included this last pillar, that is digital inclusion. Because we have to include this youth that we have. 60% of African citizens are less than 25 years old. We have to include them in order to avoid a high unemployment rate in the future. We also have to include the women, right? Because like if you look at the statistics, women are the majority, represent the majority when it comes to informal businesses, in their formal sector, in their formal economy. We have to make sure that we include women as well because they represent half of our population. And lastly, if this transformation was a debate, it is not a debate anymore today. I mean, you just have to look around with COVID, the crisis that is happening, that is touching all of us, that is impacting all of us. So COVID revealed kind of the weaknesses of our traditional economies. And now more than ever, the decision makers want to move into digital economy. So now let me go over maybe the top 3 challenges. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but we all understand and we all agree here that the #1 challenge is skills. Skills, because as I said previously, the natural resource becomes people in the digital economy, people that will generate data. So it's important that those people have the skills, the citizens have the skills in order to be able to use those tools, in order the entrepreneurs have the skills in order to create and develop local solutions that respond to local needs. I have like, in so many panels, I'm always kind of not fighting, but arguing with the notion that Africa has a low adoption rate in terms of technologies. I always say this is not true. Africa doesn't have a low adoption rate when it comes to technology. We embrace technology, but we embrace technology that responds to our needs. This is the difference, right? We cannot just do copy and paste. We have to develop technologies that address our needs. And then you're going to see African people embrace the technology and the adoption rate will be high. Example, mobile services. It completely respond to our needs. So skills is #1. #2 challenge that I have here is funding. We have to attract appropriate funding. And I make sure that I emphasize the word appropriate funding, because funding comes sometimes with strings attached. So we have to make sure that we attract the appropriate funding. And how can we do it? I think Engineer Obam covered it a little bit in his presentation. And this is one of the objectives, if not one of the main objectives of Smart Africa, which is to transform Africa into a single digital market. Why? Because myself, I'm from a country that is called Gabon. I don't know if I'm sure you know it. And Gabon represents a market size of about 2 million people. So now when you bring those big investors and those big companies like Huawei, Facebook, not Facebook, but Huawei and other big companies, they say, or Microsoft, for example, I had like a meeting with Microsoft like 3 weeks ago, and they're like, Ralph, I cannot come and invest in, for example, the market size of 2 million people. I'm not going to make money. And I cannot even bring diversity in the solutions for the market. In order for me to come and invest in Africa, I need countries to work together in order to harmonize the policies, so that instead of looking at a market size of 2 million people, I look at Africa as a market size of 800 million people, of 1.2, 1.3 million people. And for this to happen, I need harmonization. And then I can bring the appropriate investment. Then you can tell me how you want me to develop the projects, and I would listen, because I know how I'm going to make revenues, make profits. So attract appropriate funding and market size is a second challenge that I wanted to point out here. The third challenge, well, it's coordination. It's coordination among the different stakeholders, not only at a continental level, at a regional level, but also at a national level. Digital economy, when you go into the digital space, it hates silence. It's against like digital to have silence. You can see it with Facebook, with WhatsApp, with all those big GAFA companies and the big in the digital world. They made it because they completely ignore borders. WhatsApp doesn't care that you're in Kenya and that you're in the United States and that you're in China. It's just going to sell you products and take advantage of the market size. So the same we have to do is that we have to really limit the notion of borders. We're all African, and we have to make sure that a Kenyan can go to Rwanda and make business seamlessly, right? In order for this to work. So that's the number 3 challenge. Lastly, I'm not going to be too long. I want to cover what's being done by Smart Africa with respect to the digital economy blueprints. And again, I want to say thank you to Kenya for selecting this blueprint that was very much needed on the continent. The first thing that we did after the launch of the blueprint is that we did diffusion by doing like a digital economy assessment based on the pillars of the blueprint. So we sent like an invitation to all the member states of Africa to be part of the digital assessment based on the digital economy blueprint to identify gaps on how we can support and assist our member states with respect to the blueprint. And we have 10 countries that responded, right? The first 10 countries were the first to be part of this study. So we have Angola, Benin, Burkina, Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, Gabon, Benin, Sierra Leone, Kenya, and Senegal. So you can see the reach already of that blueprint within the continent, how Kenya became a model when it comes to digital economy. So that's one. The second action that we've taken is like now that we did this assessment, what we decided to do is that we decided to assist 3 countries with the development of the update of the digital economy national strategies. And those 3 countries are Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, and Benin. So using that blueprint as a reference, taking into account harmonization, again, remember, harmonization, we are assisting those 3 countries with the development of the digital economy strategies. And when we need support, of course, we call Engineer Obama and his team in order to come and share the best practices with those other countries. Number 3, one big recommendation of that blueprint and the digital assessment was to develop an index, a digital economy index that is made by African people and that tell the African stories. So much of the statistic out there comes from non-African players. Well, this time, what we're doing at Smart Africa, we're developing what we call the Digital Market Index, which is based on this blueprint from Kenya in order to tell the African stories by Africans. And we're doing this prototype with 4 countries under the leadership of Kenya again here. So Kenya, Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, Benin, and you should see that prototype soon during the Transform Africa Summit in September of this year. And please invite the Strathmore University and colleagues and friends to come and attend this big summit for the continent. 3, what we've done is we assisting during the assessment, we identified a big gap in Sierra Leone. Sierra Leone requested some assistance with the digital transformation, with e-government, digital government. So we are assisting Sierra Leone with a concrete project, which is to develop a document tracker and workflow system, totally digital, within the department, the Ministry of ICT, and then we'll expand it to other ministries. And lastly, we have a project called the Smart Africa Trust Alliance, which is really about exchanging information between governments. It's a very ambitious project. What we want to do here is, like, if I give you an example of a use case, we have, like, for example, a business registration authority in Tunisia, the business registration authority in Kenya, and we want the company in Kenya to go and do businesses in Tunisia without going through the lengthy process of registration. So let me stop here and thank you very much. And I'm looking forward for the fruitful discussions and the questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mbauna. I hope I'm saying this right.
Mbuna, you're good.
Mbuna. All right. Yeah, thank you very much for those insights. This is really, I don't think we could get better than this in terms of this document and also what's going on in Smart Africa. So thank you very much, and thank you, Engineer Obam. So I will invite Muriuki to take us through the questions. What has come on the chat, and also any other questions. We are open until another 15 minutes so that we can wind up.
John, thank you very much. Again, I want to thank our panelists. Engineer Obam came out very, very clearly about the motivation, the inspiration behind developing this great document, and also very, very deep insights from LAF, how Africa is benefiting from this work. And so I want to thank both very much. Just mention one thing to LAF is that Senegal took the responsibility of championing the broadband strategy. And I'm honored to have been invited by Smart Africa to work with Senegal and other countries and develop the Smart Broadband 2025 as a tool to support the realization, for example, of the single digital market and of this. And I want to note that some of your colleagues here in this call, in this webinar, Grace Nyakanini and Harima Mohammed, are very, very passionate working with us to develop the Smart Broadband. So I have worked with Smart Broadband, from Smart Africa, and I know the passion that you have to help Africa realize the basics, the advantages and the opportunities presented by the digital transformation. So we have some few minutes, and I would like to quickly go into the questions that have been presented by you members in the panel. And we have one question in the question and answers part of it. And then there are some other questions that have been put here. And I'll lead them and invite the panelists to give some thoughts on those questions. So the first question came from Andrew Rimo by way of, which is through the chat. And this is addressed to, I can see is addressed to Engineer Obam. I don't know whether Obam, you are able to see the question, which I'll lead. Part of it, the emerging opportunities with the digital economy, as is in any new initiative, will need strategies for diffusion to ensure that people are involved, sensitized, and are able to participate. This webinar is one such intervention, but we need to engage a wider audience. It takes a while for people to appreciate and figure out how to benefit from initiatives and opportunities. How do we intend to reach out? This is from Andrew Rimo, Digital Anthropology Studies. I would like to pose this to Engineer Obam to give a quick view of perspective on this question.
Thank you, Muriuki, and thanks, Andrew Limo. Andrew Limo, glad to see you. You are here. Probably what I didn't go through was the process that we went through in developing the blueprint. we invited many government agencies, the regulatory authority, the smart city developer, the central bank, the National Treasury, Ministry of Trade, Ministry of Education. Private sector, we had companies, and I'll mention them here, Safaricom, Telkom Kenya, Intel, Dell, Oracle, Huawei. And even when we went to Rwanda, we actually had a joint stand with all these companies, plus our own eCitizen platform that provides services to Kenyans. So the development of the blueprint was actually done with a host of stakeholders. Now, fast forward to when we're developing our own national digital economy strategy, it was a very open process where we invited, private sector representatives, specific companies. We set up technical working groups, more than hundreds of people working on each of the pillars, and then they contributed to the development of the document. So when we had the draft document, we posted it on the website, put ads in the newspaper, asked for comments. And then after that, what we again did in Kenya is that we then sent out the document to our county governments, all of them, and the draft, and asked for input. And we actually got input from those level of government, so that we could have their input. So that's the outreach that we did. Now, in Kenya, and I'm sure in other countries, there's what we call stakeholder engagement. Even after this document has been developed as policies of the government, I think when they are already approved, there's a need now for the implementing agencies to go to the ground and hold, for lack of a better word, town hall meetings and explaining. For example, when you implement the infrastructure pillar, it means you are taking connectivity to schools, to hospitals, to maybe shopping centers. And when people have broadband, and then you go and tell them what this can bring, instead of traveling, they can actually transact there. So there's that sensitization that needs to be, and awareness that need to be carried out by the implementing agencies of the strategy. So the work is not done with the development. I think there has to be additional outreach by each of the implementing agencies to sensitize people on what value each of those pillars bring. That's, in short, that's how I'd want to answer that one. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that response. Andrew, if you're happy, just put, go to the emoji and put an acknowledgement as we go on. And the next question I want to is addressed to Dr. Laff. And Lemord says these are good thoughts and good vision. And the question is, after having Smart Africa established in 2013, and now having that 2 members with a vision of transforming Africa to a single digital market, are there specific 1 or 2 case studies of something we can touch and say, yet this is part of the project or idea that has made us move to a single digital market? Number 1. Number 2, secondary, I love the pillar on innovation entrepreneurship. What specific 1 or 2 ideas do we have moving forward, working with the MEs in Africa? And I would like, to save time, address also a question that has been posed by one Mweda Jelaine, I know her from Communication Authority of Kenya. And the question she is posing is, Africa Techpreneurs, this charity is funding, which you mentioned as one of the challenges, actually challenge number 2, external and foreign funding. What can we do to generate our own local and regional appropriate funding? It actually uses the word you used, appropriate funding. Dr. Laff, please help us in these 2 questions.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the questions. They're very, very good questions. And maybe one thing that I did not cover is the process on how Smart Africa projects are developed. And also one thing that I didn't cover is like Smart Africa. So let me start with this. Smart Africa is an alliance of those 32 member states and head of states and governments. But it's also an alliance of the private sector. During my intervention, I mentioned like Huawei, Facebook, Microsoft, etc. Those are all also members of the Smart Africa Alliance. So we're going to have countries, we're going to have private sector companies. We're also going to have African startups, like fintech startups. They're also members of Smart Africa. We're also going to have academic institutions, members of Smart Africa and partner of Smart Africa. We have, for example, Carnegie Mellon University, and we hope that we will do even more with Strathmore University. We also have other international organizations that are partners of Smart Africa. And it's in this whole ecosystem that we exchange and we work on those different projects that are part of the technical working groups that Engineer Obama just mentioned, that we develop those different blueprints and case studies. So now the Smart Africa project development process goes through 4 phases. The first phase is a concept notes. Then you have blueprints, which is done by, such as the digital economy blueprint done by Kenya. Then you have development of pilot projects, concrete pilot projects. And then you have scale up in a harmonized way within the whole Smart Africa Alliance. If I have to give you like maybe 2 concrete examples, let me start again with the digital economy flagship project. So what we have, we developed the blueprints, and now we're moving into like the piloting of project, the development of strategies, the development of, as I said earlier, an index that is made by Africans and to tell the African stories. And we have also in Sierra Leone the development of a workflow system for the Ministry of ICT in Sierra Leone. That's one example. A second example I can give you, for example, smart cities. What we've done in smart cities, the blueprint of smart cities was launched by Rwanda in 2017. And following the launch of the blueprint, what we've done is that we developed national strategies, harmonized national strategies in different countries, including Tunisia, Rwanda, Ghana, Guinea, and Benin. And after those national strategies, we developed concrete pilot projects that are mentioned in those respective national strategies, including, for example, in Rwanda, if you go to Kigali, you're going to see the smart waste management pilot project that was developed there, and you're going to see all the different markets, how they use technology to filter the waste and make money out of waste, which is amazing. But all those different initiatives done by Smart Africa, you can find them on our website, or you can find them, of course, again, I'm inviting everybody to the Transform Africa Summit that will happen in September. So this is for the first question. For the second question on funding for entrepreneurs in Africa, that's a very good question as well. And what we're doing at Smart Africa, I believe funding is not the #1 challenge for the entrepreneurs in Africa. I think skills is the #1 challenge. So what we do really is we have developed the Smart Africa Digital Academy. And with the Smart Africa Digital Academy, we build capacities not only of our policymakers, decision makers, government officials, but also of the entrepreneurs, right? So that they have the skills in order to properly identify those appropriate funding, as I call them, and properly write the proposals to get the funding and put themselves together, work together in order to access those fundings, but most importantly, work with the government as well to get those fundings. So this is one thing that we do. The second initiative that we're doing is that we have a network of funds. We partner with different fund managers in order to select startups, the best startups in the continent, and fund them. We're doing one with Bamboo Capital, and we call it the Block Smart Africa Fund. Please go again, look for it online. You're going to find all the information, and do not hesitate to send me an email so I can properly guide you on how to enter this process of funding. So this is a Block Smart Africa Fund that is handled by Smart Africa, and that is funded by the Smart African members, the countries, as well as external partners. Thank you. I hope that answered the question.
Thank you very much. Just before I let you off the hook, how do you relate this with the African Continental Free Trade Area? What is the point of engagement between the Digital Africa effort from Smart Africa Alliance and the Africa AfCFTA? Dr. Laf?
Yes, I'm going to give you the short answer, and then maybe I expand if the time allows me to. The AfCFTA, let me congratulate this initiative. This is a wonderful initiative for the continent. And you're going to see already like the correlation between the chairman of Smart Africa, the current chairman of Smart Africa is His Excellency Paul Kagame from Rwanda. And he's also the one that kind of pushed for this initiative, if you look at the history, along with his peers. The correlation between the two is that Smart Africa is looking into transforming Africa into a single market using digital tools. AfCFTA, it's larger. They do it using everything. They look at all the different areas, including digital, and they use digital as a tool. So we're here to support this implementation with a different flagship projects. We have several member states that are leading those different flagship projects for the implementation of the AfCFTA. And just to give you an example, Ghana, where the headquarters of the AfCFTA is located, is championing within the Smart Africa Alliance the flagship project on e-payments for the facilitation of digital trade in Africa. So we work closely with AfCFTA with this flagship project. And again, let me not forget the pulse, the catalyst that was also the digital economy blueprint from Kenya.
Morioki, may I butt in here and just say something?
Okay.
First, on the issue of innovation and MSMEs, one thing that we need to do for MSMEs is that we need to incubate them so that they can move from how they are working now to a digital platform. And just an example, beginning with done in Kenya is where we have what we call the white box, where we encourage people to come and engage and bring their innovations. And then that way they are given some guidance on intellectual property rights, they are able to be connected with the possible funding. So that's one way that we can be able to grow MSMEs. Secondly, our regulators, especially in the fintech, Capital Markets Authority and also Central Bank are having what we are calling regulatory sandboxes, where innovators can actually go and try out their ideas. So I think we need to incubate our MSMEs so that they can move from where they are now to the digital platform, and that way they expand the market. On the Africa Free Continental Trade area, Kenya as a country has a working group that works directly with the Secretariat of AfCFTA in Ghana and also work with the African Union to see how we can accelerate the achievement of the single digital market. So in addition to the work that we're doing, the Smart Africa Alliance, we're also working with these other continental bodies, AU, AUC, and the Secretariat of that's running the agreement to try and achieve the objectives of our leaders who created this proposed free trade area. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just 1 minute.
Morioki, before you come in.
John, just 1 minute for engineer. Thank you for the response on the National Digital Economy Strategy you have answered. Just wondering, shall we have another institutional framework to drive it, or are the current institutions okay to drive the economy strategy? Just 1 minute, because we have almost run out of time. Engineer?
Yes, what I mentioned is that these are national initiatives, so they'll be integrated into the different institutions. For example, why you can't have one institution? Because if you're looking at digital government, that's a government initiative. Digital business, we've got digital financial services, digital trade, content. So there are institutions that drive content creation. They are those responsible for financial services. They are those responsible for trade. If you look at infrastructure, government can do backbones, but you still need private sector to drive the rollout of last mile and access technologies. Entrepreneurship, it's spread. If you look at skills, there's a education institution, private, public. So each of these institutions will take the bit that can fit into their mandate. So it's integrated into what is already happening. So there's no institutional framework, but this is going to be integrated given the unique situation of each of the institutions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I now hand over to John.
No, I wasn't actually taking away from you. I just wanted to say a couple of things. There are two hands up there from Andrew and also Kevin. Maybe you need to. But before that, I think I can see we may run a little bit over, but I just wanted to just let information, maybe a few minutes, but just get these two people so we can hear their voices.
Okay, I have not seen that. There's a raised hand. Who is?
No, there's hand of Kevin.
Okay.
And Andrew Limo. I don't know whether they are you, was that an old hand or right now? Limo?
Hello.
Yes, I can see Limo. Yes, no. Welcome, Limo.
No, thank you so much. That was an old hand. I appreciate.
All right. And okay. Then Kevin, was that an old one as well?
Kevin? I think
all right.
We are okay. So over to you.
All right,
John.
So it's great. So we have a few, I'm going to invite the two panelists to give 2 minutes sort of sum up the panel. And then I will invite, I'll give you a little brief, and then I will invite one of our managers also to close remarks as well. So, let me have the pleasure. Let me start this time with Dr. Boni to give his closing remarks, and then followed by Dr. Engineer Bam.
Thank you very much. And again, thank you for this panel. Very interesting discussions that we had. Unfortunately, we could not cover all of this, but as final remarks, I want to emphasize the fact that the natural resources in the digital economy is now people. We have to invest in our people, in their education. We have to invest in research and development. And what I mean by people, I don't only mean the bottom to top approach, like with the citizens. I also mean the top to bottom approach with the government officials. And it's only by transforming the mindset and investing in those people that we will truly transform economies into digital economies, and digital economies will expand and will be able to compete with the rest of the world. Thank you. And Smart Africa, of course, is happy to have partners to come and join this vision of transforming Africa into a single digital market. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dr. Let me invite Engineer Obang.
Thank you, John. Sorry, I should not be doing there's a participant called Cindy who has asked some questions and talking about corruption, and also saying that they're not really interested in seeing Africa come together. I think for me, maybe talk about corruption. By digitizing government and having digital government, you find that you bring a lot of transparency and efficiency in delivering services, and that can address the concern of corruption. For example, getting government documents, before it was very difficult, but if you can apply, for example, for a passport or an ID online and pay for it online and just go and collect it, you are notified when it's ready. To me, I think that will eliminate a lot of red tape that was there. On the issue of not being interested in seeing Africa come together, I think this is the trend. If you look at Europe, if you look at other countries, the market is within your country and with your neighbors and with your region. If you don't go that way, the traditional way of exporting, I think talked about adding value. The tradition of exporting and finished products to far off lands and then it's processed, then you buy it, I think that is going away. So we need to look internally within our continent to develop our markets. I thought I'd just respond to that. On my conclusion, I think that the digital economy and the pillars that we proposed, whether all of them or one of them or alternative pillars based on digital technologies, is the only opportunity we have for providing jobs to our youth. If we don't give jobs to our youth, we are going to have a problem. And in Kenya, we've seen how a simple solution like simple mobile money transfer has now become a platform for engagement in Kenya. I can buy my airline ticket, I can pay for anything globally, locally, regionally from my phone. And so this is really an opportunity, and we need to focus our attention, our energy, our resources in developing platforms. And especially with the pandemic, which doesn't seem to want to go away in terms of delivering education, delivering services, we really need to redouble our efforts and focus on transforming our processes into digital platforms so that we can continue as governments deliver services, as private sector continue giving employment and delivering services. So let's invest in digitizing government services. Let's invest in having interoperable platforms. Let's invest in infrastructure, especially digital infrastructure. Let's encourage entrepreneurship and innovation. And let us develop skills that are fit for the fourth industrial revolution and the 21st century so that our youth can actually be able to work from their villages if we give them broadband and do work for anyone in any part of the world. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Dan, and thank you. I notice Martin Bayer has joined us again. So welcome again, Martin. As we wind up, I just wanted to make a few remarks before I invite Lynette to give us what is lined up for us. So let me just give you a few slides, just to share 2-3 slides very quickly. Why this program? We've started a new program here at Strathmore University, and we are saying why this program. It's the Cyberspace Policy and Strategic Studies program. And it is actually what we've been talking about throughout this morning. This is part of it. And that cyberspace represents one of the greatest inventions what we have today. We know that the physical world is changing, the digital world is changing, the biological world is changing into the cyberspace. So we have started this new program where we need to engage others to discuss policymakers on how we can make use of this. We can see from what is happening that the cyberspace actually is a strategic domain in today's world. We used to know the air, land, sea, and space, but cyberspace is now a new domain where policymakers need to engage and see what to do to make strategic decisions. At Strathmore University, we are strategically placed to prepare or to build capacity on these areas, both on the business and also on the digital economy ecosystem. We are trying to fill the gaps in the African sense, And you can see that there are many, many areas that it's still very, very low. If you look at the digital, and I think Dr. said earlier on, Africa contributes very, very little. And actually, this is represented in just about everywhere. Infrastructure development, you can see from the map what is happening. And so we want to feel that these strategies will actually be able to build these gaps. The area of capital is still very far. Africa is still very far. And so we want to build the capacity in those areas as well. In the area of personal data protection and regulatory landscape, again, Africa is still very, very far. So we need to get our policymakers to discuss those issues. And of course, the area of economic integration. So our focus program is capacity building on these 4 key areas: technology and innovation, economy, capital, and cybersecurity. Of course, based on our strategic policy research and publications as an economic institution. So we have lined up programs for this, and I'm going to invite Lynette Njokit just to give us 2 slides on this area. And I want to say thank you very much. Lynette, are you there?
Yes, thank you very much, John. So maybe you can allow me to share. Thank you very much, our panelists. I think my take home as I listened is what Dr. Oyini said, that as Africans, it's not that we don't know how to consume technology, but we consume that which is relevant to us. So thank you, Dr. I'll be answering that to anybody who tells me or asks why are we so slow to consume technology and move forward. I also see that we had a very vibrant discussion. And the participants had asked quite a bit of questions, both today at the session, but I want to just tell each participant that the time may be short, but good news is that we are planning to have cyber conversations every month. Our next conversation is on the 6th of August, same time, East Africa time, and we'll be discussing critical infrastructure. We'll be exploring the effectiveness and the impact of existing legal and institutional frameworks. So I'm hopeful that you may be able to join us next month. That said, we run a program that is a 5-day program, and I'm excited I could see some of the alumni here today. So the next program is going to be virtual. And yes, in the seasons that we are in because of Corona, and also because we realized that we have a regional mix. We have Rwanda, the last class we had Rwanda, we had Somalia, we had Ghana, and we are hopeful that we'll be able to reach the whole of Africa. So that's why we've been insistent on taking our programs online. So we'll be having the next program 3rd to 7th of October this year. And we'll be discussing the issues that our lead faculty, John, has talked about, from technology to economy, to capital, to cyber security. Then the next program we'll have now is next year, 23rd to 27th of February next year. Kindly note my email address therein and my telephone number. You can always reach me if you have any questions, and we'll be able to register you. Apart from these dates, if as an organization you feel that there's something that we can work together as Strathmore, I am available. You don't have to wait for the dates. We are able to train organizations through a custom program, and we can meet your needs. So kindly look out for my email and my telephone number and mark the dates. And I look forward to hosting you on those dates. Thank you very much, John.
Thank you very, very much. So we have ended the day, but we started with Caroline Munene. So we can go up to Caroline to say kwaheri to all of us. Carol, the floor is.
Thank you so much. That was a very insightful session with the discussions, and also we thank the participants for actively participating in this session. We are grateful. We'll communicate further on the next session that we'll be having on 6th August, that will be communicated to you. And also a recording of this session will be made available. It will be shared on our SBS website and also on your emails. Thank you very much and have a beautiful day.
Maybe we can get your figures. Bye.